Alright, so now that we've got the skeleton out of the way, let's take a look at painting weights. Now, the idea behind this is that every one of these joints right here is connected to some degree to the surrounding geometry. And the geometry is not necessarily painted to one bone per object, it is weighted between multiple bones. So if I were to select this right here and right click, go to Paint Skin Weights tool, you can see that there is a list of all the available joints that could be connected to it. And depending on which one of these is selected on the right, you will see a gradient from black to white. Black meaning that it is not being weighted to that joint at all. White meaning is being weighted to it 100%. And gray just being somewhere in between, allowing you to have multiple joints affecting the same geometry. So for this, I don't know if I would want my shoulder affecting it as much as this, but I know I don't want to have an uneven distribution. This does not bend. It is a solid object. I want this to be the same shade of whatever color it is, black, white, or some gray in between, across the entire thing, because otherwise this part will move more than this part when this moves. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to set this to replace. I'm going to set my value to 1, my opacity to 1. I always like to leave my value at 1 because I don't want to accidentally add more than 1 to this. So I'm just going to always have to replace to a maximum of 1, and then opacity will control whether or not it's going to fully replace it or just partially replace it. It makes more sense as you do it. So I'm going to leave this to 1. I'm going to hit flood. Oops, I'm going to undo that. I want to make sure I've only got this side right here selected. So I'm going to go to vertex, double click, that grabs all of those. And now I'll go to my paint skin weights tool. And I've still got my left shoulder right here. We're going to hit flood. Now it's 100% connected to that. But what happens if I move this? These go through it, right? I want this to move a little bit with that. So I'm going to go back to my vertices, reselect them, right click, paint skin weights, and now I'll go to the left arm right here. I'm going to take my opacity down a little bit and hit flood now. You can see it's got an even distribution of a dark gray across it. Now let's see what happens if I move this up a little bit. You can see this moves a little bit, but maybe not as much as I would like it to. I'm just going to add more. I'm going to slowly push this towards a value of 1 without ever actually getting there. Oops. Maybe too much. I'll go back to my left shoulder and add back in. Here, so now it's sort of in between. Well, maybe I'll add a little bit more to the left arm. No. Too much. I don't want this to go through there. Yeah. So instead, I'll go to this one. I'll start by adding this all the way onto the left arm, and then start adding a little bit at a time back to the shoulder until it moves back down and is no longer going through it like that. So now they'll move this different degrees as it goes up. Honestly, if he was wearing this, he probably couldn't bring his arm that high up anyway, so I'll bring that back down a little bit. There. This one, same thing for this. I'll start by attaching it entirely to the arm, and then slowly bring it back. Maybe not quite that fast, a little slower. To the shoulder. It's still a bit of an issue. Problem with painting weights is it is kind of a constant tug of war between the different joints. And it's especially hard when you're working with something like armor because armor is not as flexible as skin, so it's really hard to make it work for all positions. I don't know if this could really get much higher than this before these pieces start pushing into each other. In real life, they would probably have more uh, movement. This could probably lift up rather than just being slid around. I could possibly add a new joint in here to do that, but that's more work than I feel like doing right now. There. Let's say that's good enough. I'm going to right click. I'm going to assume preferred. That's going to bring it back to its original position. Saw some of these on the left move when I did that. That's probably because I didn't have my vertices selected when I meant to, but that's okay. Once I'm happy with the weights on the right side right here, I can go to skin, mirror skin weights, and this is going to use the YZ plane. Y is up, Z is forward, so it's going to be a plane cutting through the center of his body. And so it's going to go from positive, this side, to the negative, this side, and the X direction, which is left and right. Hit apply. Now I do this one, hit apply, and this one, hit apply. Now you can see they both do the same thing. Once again, he's limited in what he should be able to move. That's just life-wearing armor, I guess. So whenever I model things that are separate pieces of armor like this, I always like to make sure my right piece of armor and my left piece of armor are combined into one object. Because if they're not, like this piece right here and this piece right here, I can't mirror them across. Mirroring only works on the same object. Even if I have two objects selected, it's still not going to do anything. Lift that arm up. Just look in here. Oftentimes, if you're not careful with your weights, what happens if you move it around and part of the side moves with it? But that doesn't seem to be happening here. We'll say some of these are moving a bit irregularly. You can see some weird little crinkling right there. So what I may do, you see it's got a dark patch right there. I'll go to smooth and keep my opacity fairly low. And I'm just going to click around in there, and that's going to blur the gray out into the black, so that it's a bit more evenly distributed as it blends into the chest. And the spine around there. See the same thing happening with this. May increase my opacity a little bit, I think. Now you don't have as much control doing it this way, but sometimes it's much easier than trying to figure out exactly how you want to weight each vertex. Well, to be honest, I probably don't want anything in there to really move around too much. This, I've decided, is going to be one solid piece. Maybe I could get away with a little bit of movement up here, but he's not going to be moving his spine around in this too much. Doesn't make sense with the way I've built it. So if I grab this and look for... What I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to have him bend from here for the most part. That feels a little too high up. I may move this joint down a little bit to about here. So once again, skin, move skin joints, and I'll move that down there. Now if I want him to move, he'll just move that piece right here, and everything will move with it. So I'll attach all of this to that. Matter of fact, because I've done it like that, it might make more sense for all of these that I added in last week. Not you, so maybe you, yeah, actually. Be parented to this joint right here instead of the hips. That way, if I rotate him, they move with this piece right here. No, actually, don't need to do that. Right click, go to paint skin weights. Got the spine right there. Replace 100%. There. Yeah, like that. Means this should also 100% attach to this. I guess in this case, it doesn't make much of a difference. What happens if I move this around now? Does this look like it's going through it? Not particularly. I think that'll be all right. Make sure everything is back to its preferred angle, because I don't want to do any mirroring while these are at a weird angle. It doesn't work as well that way. Things tend to get messed up. Mirrored again. He's really got restricted movement. I get the feeling he's not a skilled fighter. He's probably more the tank of the party, so I guess he doesn't have to move around that much. He just have to stand in front of everybody else and take the hits. Now, let's take a look at the elbow. Elbows are tricky, because what happens is you either get a weird squish right here, or the whole thing just turns into one curvy noodle. Elbows don't do either one of those things. They tend to have bunching up right here. I'm going to hide everything else. I want there to sort of be a obvious cutoff between the top and the bottom of these two joints. I don't want there to be a blend right here in the middle. So I'm going to go back to here, find my left arm. Yep, I'm already on it. Replace, keep my opacity fairly low. If I hold down the letter B and left mouse click and drag, I can change the size of this brush. A little tricky because I got all those folds in the fabric. It's a little hard to tell where everything is. That's okay. Now I got my forearm down here. I'm going to paint these a little bit more so. Go back and forth. And they should sort of crease where they meet rather than squish. Bend your own arm. You'll see your skin has a definite crease in the middle. There's not a bend. It folds right there. Do a little bit of smoothing now. Oops, back in place. There we go. And go to my left arm. I can try to pull some of this back just a little bit. Smooth that out in a second. Because I want to create a sharp elbow right here. And if there's too much of a smooth transition, the elbow disappears. And it just turns into a plastic pipe. I'm going to bring it all out a little bit. I'll smooth it again afterwards. Just going to start by creating a sharp elbow right there, and then smooth it. Sometimes it's easier to start a little too exaggerated and then pull it back afterwards. Make sure these are going to stick to the spine so that this doesn't come out. If it moves and go past the armor, don't want to leave gaps so you can see through the armor and the chainmail to the nothing inside. Now it looks more like a bent elbow and less like a noodle. Unless, of course, you're going for the classic rubber hose school of animation from the early days. I am not. Bring everything back again. Now see what happens as I bend this. And you can see it folds up, increases while maintaining a little bit of a shape of an elbow at the back. That's more like what I'm looking for. Let me make sure I zoom. It's like this. I'll get both sides. Skin, mirror skin weights. Now I should do the same thing over here. Look at that. I love mirroring. Makes my life so much easier. I see. Doesn't make sense for this part right here to bend. So vertex, double click. This should be entirely on the forearm right there. This should be entirely on the hand. You could select vertices while I still have it selected, but I can't. That should be on the thumb. Let's see, thumb, thumb. There it is. Thumb 2, thumb 3. There you go. Index 1. Make sure I double click directly on the vertex, otherwise I just want to be selecting through it or something. I may need to repaint the fingers after this, but these should at least give me some idea as to what the shape should look like. Middle. Painting weights on the fingers is always tedious. I suspect a lot of this is a mess because the bones were in the wrong place, thanks to Miximo's uh, rather confusing idea as to where the hand is supposed to be. There you go. And before I forget, skin, mirror, skin, mirror. And let's see what happens when I bend the fingers. You can see what a mess that is. And oftentimes what I find the best thing to do is to start by just adding these on with the hardest, sharpest edges on them without worrying about blending, just so they move correctly at least. And worry about blending them afterwards. See what that looks like right there. Greater than to expand that outwards. And now find that middle one right here and smooth it a little bit at a time. This on there at all? It shouldn't be. Or this one was controlling this slightly. It shouldn't have been, but sometimes that happens. Sometimes what happens is a different joint gets mixed in with the rest of these. So I'm going to double check something. Component editor. Smooth skins. This shows me all the joints that are currently affecting it. And for some reason, the left hand and the left thumb are both affecting it. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to select all those vertices. I'm just going to press 0 on my keyboard to replace all those, and that gets rid of it entirely. And you can see that gets rid of some influences that shouldn't have been in there. So I'm going to expand this a couple times, make sure that they're not still there, and they are. Index 3 should not be in there. 0. Left hand, 0. There. Slightly easier transition now. I'm going to check to see if the same thing's happening here. Matter of fact, I might just, if I can get the entire finger. I think that's everything. Make sure there's no left hand or thumb in any of this. It should be controlled by the fingers and the fingers alone. There, that's an improvement. Actually, I kind of like the folding right there, kind of like with the elbows. Let me grab these, and now that's no longer the issue. And I push just a little bit more of the base of the, oops, the base of the index in there. Let me try that again. I said that I have that backwards. It's really hard to move around here without everything else getting in the way. And I think what I may do is to prevent that from happening again. I'm gonna grab all of these all the way down to the base. Let's step it down to here. I'll go all the way down to the base first. Make sure there's no thumb in this. Don't need to be using that at all. I just need to have this. I can see this right here. I don't want the index 1, 2, or anything else affecting this. I'm gonna get rid of both of those. Middle, pinky, pinky, ring, thumb. Don't want any of you affecting this. And I only want the left hand affecting at the very base. So I'm going to shift less than. Make sure that's not affecting it up above. Middle. How did thumb get back in there? Get out of here, you. That should make this go a little bit easier. Oh yeah, I forgot I need to actually smooth this right here a little bit. One, smooth. As the one downside to using the smooth, sometimes it brings in stuff you didn't mean to bring in. There, I like that a lot better. Slightly better start than the last one had, I think. Still not perfect, of course. Hide everything else. I got a little bit of a fold right here without everything becoming too broken looking. First things first, I'll remove any thumb influences on this. Though it's getting far enough away, hopefully there isn't going to be much. Nope, no thumb this time, but it does have the pinky in there for some reason. I guess it's right next to it, I suppose. And the index is still affecting it somehow. In the middle. Less than a couple times. And now I can remove the hand from it. And the thumb jump back in. It's a little unpredictable sometimes. What can I say? Weird stuff happens. Ooh, that looks painful just looking at that. Let's get that fixed quickly. Making sure nothing jumped in there by mistake. Looks all right. Jumped in. The thumb jumped in again somehow. And the hand. And somehow the tip of the finger also snuck in there when I started smoothing. Aha. If you see it gets really janky like that, usually means something snuck in. Works much better without the extra joints mucking it up. Don't know why the tip of the finger keeps creeping into the base of the finger, but it is easily removed. Oh, oh, that is horrible. I'm betting a lot of things got mixed into this. And thank goodness for the mirror tool. Otherwise, I have to do this for both sides. Imagine how much fun that would be. Oh yeah, is grabbing some things that shouldn't be in there. And if it's not updating over here, someone's got to go greater than, less than, and that'll update it. Oh, and the base of the pinky. You shouldn't be there either. Just make sure I have that selected before I do anything else. Really should only be two joints affecting this. I'm fine with that crease right there. It makes sense for there to be a crease. Oh boy. On the hand, first maybe smooth that a little bit. Index and middle are gotten in there again. Yeah, I think this should just be for the hand and the pinky right there. The pinky one, so I'm gonna get rid of pinky two. Now a bit of refinement. I'm curious. Wonder if the reason the thumb keeps sneaking in is it too spread out across the rest of the hand? Nope, that's not even anywhere over here. Who knows? That is definitely a bit too far into here. But I'll accept that for the pinky right now. And before I move on, I'm going to mirror this and do a save scene as, because I don't want to have to do that again. I built this with the expectation that it'd be up here somewhere. Although, look at my hand, I think it is actually closer there, so yeah, I think I'll leave it alone. How did that get there? Do need to add a bit more influence, I think, down here. That moves with it a bit better, but make sure it blends out into the hand rather quickly. There shouldn't be any of that part of the thumb right there. Thumb 2 and 3 are definitely nowhere near this. Bend these so I can actually see what needs to be fixed. There's no point in painting weights with your joints in their default position. You're not going to see what's happening. Oh, you are in the wrong place, buddy. Same on both sides? Probably. Yep. So we moved down. Move skin joints. Should be closer to here. How does that look now? Moved them too far. I was looking at the wrong ones. They probably should be moved anyway. These right here. There we go. That's more like it. You gotta get the joints where they belong, otherwise it doesn't matter how you paint the weights. It's gonna turn out wrong no matter what, in that case. Thumb curls in, skin, mirror, and now should happen on the other side exactly the same. Look at that. I love the mirror tool. I wish I'd combined these together, not to do them separately. So, first things first, I want this to be fully attached to the hips, so it's not going to move around. It doesn't make sense for the part that's bolted down to rotate. Why are you not doing what I told you to do? Right, set that to 100%. There we go. Oh, this is going to be a lot easier than the fingers were. Start by attaching everything to it at the maximum without any smoothing. Rotate it a little bit. Actually, that looks pretty good as is. I may just look for points where it looks a little bit sharp like this. Smooth that down a little bit. Why are you here at all? Zoom. Now I noticed some things in there I wasn't expecting, like the left leg and the hips and the spine. Don't need any of those things. No, I get the spine maybe. Yeah, that's the spine right there, but I don't need the hips or the left leg up. Skin, edit influences and remove those influences. Now they're not in there at all. Oh wait, spine one is still in there. Forgot about that one. There. Might as well do that with this over here. Just check and see what's connected to that one. Hips, right leg, spine one. Hips, right leg, spine one. Edit, remove. Now let's do the same thing for these. I did wish I could mirror it, but I can't. I'll move with it. Everything beyond that, it's fine if it has a bit of give to it. There's a bone behind it. It's really hard to select or deselect. If I turn the symmetry on, maybe that might help a little bit. No, it is asymmetrical. I forgot. I want this to sort of stick to this. I don't want to have it falling off all the time, so I think I'll just take all of this right here that's touching, and I'll start by attaching that to the spine, and then smoothing it. Left shoulder should not be in here. If the right one's in there or not, I'll screw just in case. Let's see what happens if I move this around. This needs to stay more attached to the head. This is what's messed up. Okay. The whole thing should just be attached to the head, nothing else. You see, this happens because the inside and the outside are not weighted exactly the same. That's better. Is it perfect? No, it probably never will be. Generally, my feelings towards painting weights is to get them good enough. Now, these, I don't mind if they have no elbow joints to them. They can bend like tubes. It makes perfect sense. So I do want them to be fairly smooth and bendy. Probably should have added more geometry to these. Not always obvious until you start rigging them. Of course, if you were rendering all this in Maya, you could just press 3 and it'll automatically smooth everything. I could probably do that if I want to do anything a bit rounder with these. I think everything up here I will want to be fairly rigid. What are you trying to attach to? You should not be there. Now, I don't always decide to settle on the weights I've got right now. Oftentimes, once I start creating the control rig for it, and I start seeing what exactly I can do with the rig, I go back and I repaint my weights slightly differently. But I try to get things as close as I can to start with. What I want for these is that the top part is completely attached to, I guess I want this to the spine now. Matter of fact, I don't want the hips or the legs to have anything to do with these anymore. Move with this instead. Same thing for these. Just double check and see, does that have the spine in there? Yes. I don't want the hips in there anymore. Tops of these, like I just said, to be attached to the hips. Well, the spine, I guess, is what I meant. And the rest will blend into it. Left one. Everything else will be nailed down to the leg guard. And each one of these will be nailed down to a specific joint because it doesn't make sense for them to bend either. This one, unfortunately, I did not consider the importance of breaking them into pieces like I did with these ones. I did consider it, but by then I decided it just wasn't worth the effort for me anymore. Check you don't have anything else in here that you shouldn't. Yes, you do. None of those things should be affecting you. Leg, other leg. You should be controlled by these and nothing else. Seems I turned off something I didn't mean to. Now I can't see the joints anymore. There they are. Trade joints. I kind of forgot that existed. Isolate these. There we go. I think the trick will be don't move this around too much. What are you being controlled by? The hips. I think I want this to be the same as everything else around here. It's going to be the spine and then the guard and the chain mail stuff. So I'm going to remove the hips and go ahead and add the spine when I'm thinking about it. Edit, add influence, and then remove the hips and the legs. The very, very top. Controlled by the spine. Yes. So the goal of these is just to make adjustments. I'm not going to do anything crazy with them. If I was bringing this into Unreal Engine, I would add a cloth sim to these and just use the joints right here to nudge them in certain positions if I needed them to be nudged. So I'm not going to go too crazy with that one. Let me look at the legs now. You can see these are not affecting anything else because I removed them from everything else. They've got their own joints. Probably want to remove them from this too. I don't know. I don't think I really like this being controlled by the legs. So, oh, it's probably got the knees still in there too. There's this metal right here. Yeah, that was metal. Everything underneath it is leather, and ooh boy, that needs to be fixed definitely. That's what I was talking about. I didn't want that to happen up here, and I moved the arms around. I didn't want it peeking through between here and here. But you can see it's happening right there. Start by nailing this down. Left leg. Well, let this chainmail sink over the back. Looks like it's folding up and bunching. I don't want too much of this being controlled by the lower leg. That doesn't make too much sense. Keep hitting the wrong buttons. That should move with the knee and the lower leg. Mirror, 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 mirror. Oops. Apparently, the legs are bleeding over onto the other one. Select all that, vertex, and make sure there's no right leg on here. Right leg up. Yep. Now I can mirror it. After all that, once again, I'm going to save my scene. In fact, it wouldn't hurt to save my scene way more often than I have been doing. Generally, my policy is as soon as you do something you don't want to do twice, save your scene. Now, this I think I'll have kind of blending between the two of them, but not so much blending, but existing halfway between the two of them. So left foot, flood that entirely, then go to the toe base, take my opacity down really low, and just sort of have it midway like that. Now if I bend these, it moves. It doesn't do anything crazy now. In real life, this would actually sort of bend up from a different joint entirely, but this isn't real. I just need to get good enough for the time being. Now let's see what happens when I curl these. There should be obvious segmentation to it, which I then have to smooth out at the corners, like this. one selected. That just caused problems. There we go. Look at that. There we go. And I would say for now, that is good enough. And like I said before, I may wind up fixing little things I only notice when I'm setting up my control rig, but for now, that'll work just fine.